Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, it's nice to see all these shining faces in Council's Chamber this evening. Welcome to the January 18th, 2022 Alpharetta City Council meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'll note for the record, all members of council are present and accounted for. And as we always do, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you're able, please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And this evening, we're fortunate enough to start off with a couple of presentations and proclamations. Get it started off on the right foot, and I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Merkel to join me up front as we present a proclamation for Kevin Carbone, Alpharetta's American Ninja Warrior.
Hey, Kevin, and your mom and dad and your sister to come on up. So we've got Kevin, Kat, Ellen, and Jerry Carbone with us here tonight, and this proclamation the mayor's going to read is for one of our locals. As I like to say, hometown boy does good, and you're going to hear more about it in a second. I didn't know anything about the American Ninja Warrior TV show until these two down here were bragging about it at our tennis outing, and so I started looking into it, and then text messages were going around, he's going to be on TV tonight. Well, the hardest job of all was probably you guys not telling anybody, because you already knew the results before we watched it. So, as much as we tried, they weren't cracking. And I want to give this microphone to Kevin for a second. Just give us a little brief overview of how you got in it, coming out of Johns Creek High School, living here in Alpharetta, and where are you now?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for putting this together, and I appreciate the City of Alpharetta for having me tonight. This is awesome and super unexpected. I want to thank my whole family and my dad in particular for introducing me to Ninja at a time when I was going to college and not sure what I was going to do with my life. He was the one who said, hey, you should go to a Ninja gym, and he drove me over there. And at first I had said no to him, but he insisted that we go. You know, he said, I'll pay.
That usually works.
I fell in love with the sport right away, just from swinging on, the bars and doing the salmon ladder, run up the wall, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I want to go on the show if I can somehow. And I looked at the dates, and it looked like it was going to happen in 6 months from that day. And so I did everything I could to train for the show that year, including going to the walk-on line, which was because I didn't get a call for American Ninja Warrior and instead chose to wait in a park in Daytona Beach. 21 days later, they let the walk-ons run, and I ran and had an awesome rookie season, ended up on TV. But what I didn't know is that would lead to more in my life. It would lead to finding purpose. And after the show aired, someone from our community called me and said, hey, can you build me a ninja course? And I said, sure. I didn't know what I was doing, but 3 weeks later, my dad again was out there helping me dig holes and telling me how to set posts, and I've done countless Ninja Warrior builds all over the country since then. It's become my job, my career. In addition to training and competing, I've been doing and building Ninja for so long. So you never know how you're going to find your purpose. And again, thank you, Dan, for having us tonight.
Awesome. Now, we got... The city did just vote to pass a parks bond for almost $30 million, so maybe we can put us a little ninja course over here in Wills Park. We'll have to talk about that later, but proud of you and proud of your family. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Dan. Congratulations. So I'll get to read you the proclamation. There is a proclamation by the mayor and the city council of the city of Alpharetta, Georgia. Kevin Carbone, Alpharetta's American Ninja Warrior. Whereas Kevin Carbone, before becoming an American Ninja Warrior, grew up in the city of Alpharetta and attended Kennesaw State University. When he is not traveling, training, or competing on national television, he spends time with his parents, Ellen and Jerry Carbone, in his hometown, Alpharetta, Georgia. And whereas Kevin Carbone began his journey as a competitor and obstacle course designer on American Ninja Warrior in 2016, when his father suggested that he visit a local Ninja Warrior gym. After visiting his first Ninja Warrior gym, Kevin was hooked and decided to do whatever it took to become an obstacle course competitor. He submitted his first audition video, but did not make the cut, so he traveled to Daytona Beach and waited in line at a local park for 3 weeks, until one night it was finally his chance to compete as a walk-on for the show. In April 2017, he became the first competitor in American Ninja Warrior history to compete on his own obstacle design, an obstacle called Wingnuts. And whereas Kevin Carbone has competed 4 times in American Ninja Warrior during seasons 9, 10, 11, and 13, in the season 9 Daytona Beach City Finals, he was the first competitor of the night to clear the giant cubes and placed 8th in order to move on to the national finals in Las Vegas. He placed 12th during the Miami qualifier and 23rd at the end of the Miami City Finals in season 10. He placed 6th during the Atlanta qualifier in season 11, and he placed 2nd during the Atlanta City Finals. Also in Atlanta, he was one of 4 competitors in the region who conquered the Mega Wall on his first attempt and earned his 2nd trip to the national finals. He placed 5th during the Tacoma qualifier and 15th during semifinals in season 13, where he competed on another one of his designs, Ring Chaser, which paved the road for his 3rd trip to nationals in Las Vegas. And whereas Kevin Carbone, when he is not competing or training, also designs and creates obstacle and courses through his company, Makercraft. He has won the American Ninja Warrior Obstacle Design Challenge 4 times with his designs, Slingshot, Wingnuts, Ring Chaser, and Deja Vu. Kevin built his first backyard Ninja Warrior course for a family in Buckhead and has since completed at least 25 other unique Ninja Warrior backyards. And whereas Kevin Carbone is currently training for the upcoming season of American Ninja Warrior, developing obstacles for Ninja Warrior gyms around the country, and is looking forward to the day when he opens his own Ninja Warrior gym and named after his dear friend and training partner, Travis Rust. Now, therefore, we, the mayor and city council of the city of Alpharetta, do hereby congratulate Kevin Carbone for his accolades as an American Ninja Warrior competitor, and we wish him continued success on all of his future endeavors. So proclaim this 18th day of January 2022.
We'd have put more, but we ran out of room on a sheet. Congratulations. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, where are you going?
Oh, yeah. Part 2. Awesome here.
So now we have another congratulations. Didn't have a proclamation on this one, but we might have to catch up with that another. But there's a reason this room is packed. You see all these excited young faces here. And we've got a great announcement for those of you that made it tonight. So the Georgia State Gymnastics Championship award presentation here this evening. The Alpharetta Gymnastics Academy has been part of the Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Services for many years, and in 2014, Ashley Parks became the director of AGA. Since then, the program has grown from 10 athletes to serving over 80. Over the years, we have trained athletes to not only become bright and successful in the sport of gymnastics, but most importantly, to become good people. There's no point in me reading this without all y'all back there. So why don't you all come down here? Because nobody wants to see me anyway.
Get in around the mayor.
Is Ashley back there? I'm here. That's Ashley. Hey, Ashley, I didn't see you come down. So I'm going to finish reading this. If you have any comments after that you'd like to share, please do. Okay?
I don't know if I have any comments. I think I wrote them on that paper.
And y'all try to squeeze in here like you like each other so that people
might
can
get
get
in
it
the
all
picture.
on one camera. Okay? During our 2021 season, after an upsetting 2020 season, due to COVID, of course, our teams came back stronger than ever. Despite being out of the gym for a few months, AGA achieved one of the most successful seasons to date. 2 athletes achieved a perfect 10. Wow. Congratulations. Let's see a show of hands of the perfect 10s here. 1. Woo! Yay! That's awesome, ladies. A perfect 10, which has never been done in the history of Alpharetta Gymnastics over the past 35 years. The bronze level team brought home a first place at the state meet. There were over 30 first place wins at state meet, making for numerous state champs on several events. And 21 of our athletes qualified to regionals to compete against some of the most talented athletes in the Southeast. In addition, many of our athletes made the top 100 charts in the country for their scores and achievements. Mind you, there's hundreds of thousands of athletes all over the country who compete at those levels. They made the top 100. Tonight, we would like to honor the many accomplishments from AGA's 2021 season. Now, they gave me a list of all these achievements to read, but I'd like you to speak first, if you don't mind.
That's what I said in the back. I said, I hope he does not hand me that microphone. But obviously, what he just read, we are obviously very excited and proud of the whole team coming back from 2020. It was a disappointment. We were in the middle of season and kind of had to stop abruptly, and then being out of the gym, I think, for 3 months was very tough. Not only gymnastics-wise, but friends. I mean, these are teams that see each other multiple times during the week, so I think it was also hard for them not seeing their teammates. So coming back, I mean, they came back stronger than ever. I do have to say, I think in the beginning, all the coaches were kind of like, oh no, I don't know what we're getting ourselves into this season. Should we compete? Should we not compete? And they brought it. They came back stronger than ever. So we're very proud of them. Do you want me to read that list off, or would you like to read the list?
If you would like to, you're certainly welcome to.
Sure. It might be a little bit easier. All right, so we'll start. We did have them. Girls, when we call your name, you're going to step up and do your salute, because that's just gymnast fashion. All right? All right, we're going to first recognize the bronze girls from last season who won first place at the state meet. So why don't all the bronze girls who were bronze last year, y'all step up? These were the state champions last season out of all the gyms that competed at AAU bronze level. So. Good job, guys. All right, next we'll go with Lindley Jennings. Why don't you step forward? Lindley, she was the regional beam champion. So this was when we went to our regional meet. She competed against all the athletes in the Southeast, and she was why don't you do your salute, Lindley? There we go. I promise you they are very excited. All right, next up we have Eva Brady. She was the state and regional beam champion as well. She did almost score a perfect 10 as well. I think it was a 9-9 at regional, so she was very close to the 10-0. All right, next up, we have Maddie Scheller. Why don't you step up? She has a lot of achievements. She was one of our girls who scored a 10 on floor. She was a regional floor champion, all-around state champion, and bars and vault state champion. So, your gymnast. All right, next up, we have Gianna Guffey. Why don't you stand up? She was our regional vault champion and all-around state champion. Salute. All right, then we got Vianne Trieu up next, and she scored a perfect 10 on beam as well, and the regional beam champion. We have another all-around state champion and a floor and beam state champion. That's Abby Zivik. So why don't you just step on up? Cameron Bragg, you're next. This is a vault state champion right here, so salute. Nadia, bar state champion. There we go, there's a salute. We have another bar state champion, Audrey Hannaford. Step up. And another all-around state champ, and bars, vault, and beam state champion. This goes to Sarah. Go ahead and step up, Miss Sarah. Oh, we have another all-around state champion. This goes to JB Cook. And a vault state champion, Alexis Gillison. We do have one athlete that's not here. She's back in the gym practicing. So we have some more teams that are in the gym. We have another meet this weekend, so everybody couldn't attend. So these girls right here are representing for the entire program, but we want to thank you guys for having us. We really appreciate it. What do you guys say? Thank you.
Yes, that would be great. Squeeze them in. You guys know how to kneel down in front, tall people in the back.
Let's hold it here, you two. Right here in front.
Which one are you looking at?
That might be the most cameras we've ever had.
I think so, for the right reason. All the ninja people just left. Fun's over.
Congratulations, ladies.
Yep. Well done,
Way to
girl.
go, guys.
Well done.
Now it's just back to back.
All right, girls. Let's walk back up to the house so they can continue the meeting, okay? Yeah, they gotta continue their meeting. Let's walk through the hall.
You don't all have to leave if you don't want to. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was an exciting way to start off. It's always good to start off celebrating something, and that was fun. I appreciate your patience, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda tonight consists of the council meeting minutes from our meeting of January 3rd, 2022, and alcoholic beverage license applications. The license application is PH-21-AB-38 City Eats LLC, DBA City Eats Kitchen, 210 South Main Street, Suite A, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009. Is there anyone on council who would like to remove anything from the consent agenda tonight? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Mitchell, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And it does pass unanimously. So that'll wrap up the consent agenda, and we'll move on to the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. I will note before we get into the public hearing that for those of you that were here for item D, Wellstar sign exception, that item has been deferred this evening and it will not be heard tonight nor considered during tonight's meeting. So they'll be coming back at some later date. So that item will not be heard this evening. The first item under public hearing on our agenda is Reserve 116 event venue, 4150 Old Milton Parkway. Mr. Woodman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The first item before you this evening is a conditional use to allow Reserve 116 to operate a special event facility with a maximum capacity of 100 people and a 1,960 square foot suite in the shops at Old Milton. I have the location up on the overhead. The subject property is located at 4150 Old Milton Parkway, Suite 116, near the northeast corner of Old Milton Parkway and Parkwood Circle. Property is zoned community unit plan. It's subject to the Park Bridge master plan, and that's pods B and C of that master plan. Surrounding properties are also zoned CUP, except for the property across Old Milton Parkway is zoned office professional. Tava Indian Cuisine and Kalos Financial are located to the west. There's office condos located to the north. The Manhattan Deli and Bagels and Alara Park Bridge Apartments are located to the east, and the Swan Building is located to the south of this development. The shops at Old Milton is approximately 5 acres. It was developed in 2007. It's a 2-story, 49,000 square foot shopping center. Businesses occupying the center include the Jerusalem Bakery, Spices Hut, the FedEx Print and Shipping Center. There are also 2 restaurants currently operating in the center, as well as a beauty shop, barber shop, tutoring services, retail sales, and indoor recreation. There are 242 parking spaces. I do have the site plan for the center up on the overhead. 242 parking spaces for the center, and that is sufficient for the existing as well as the proposed use of the property. Reserve 116 is a new business. They're offering special event services as well as special event space, accommodating weddings, birthdays, bridal and baby showers, corporate events, educational training and seminars, and fundraisers. There'll be event planners available in-house, and then catering will be such as food and drink, photography will be outsourced. Suite 116 is denoted in the red here, so it's on the first floor of the 2-story building over in the western corner of the building. The applicant's application indicates that they will offer valet parking for events hosting over 60 guests. They're asking for hours of operation of Monday through Thursday, 6 a.m. to 12 a.m., Friday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 1 a.m., and Sunday, 6 a.m. to 12 a.m. The applicant anticipates approximately 3 employees. We did look at the traffic and parking for the use, assuming an average vehicle occupancy of 2.5 people per car. It's estimated that a full event would generate no more than 40 vehicles. This item was shown to the public at the December 8th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There were no public comments. And staff reviewed the applicant's proposal against the review criteria for conditional use. Believe the proposal should not have any significant impacts to the surrounding properties, which are developed mostly with non-residential uses. And we believe there's sufficient parking at the center for the use. This item was shown to presented to the Planning Commission on January 6th. There were no public comments during the Planning Commission meeting. And Planning Commission recommended unanimous approval of the applicant's request subject to the staff recommended conditions. There was a change. They deleted the former condition number 5 that dealt with the valet parking, and they added They added provision for valet parking to correct any issues that are identified at the center. And I'll read that new number, condition number 5. So the conditions recommended by Planning Commission include: 1, special event facility shall be added as a conditional use at 4150 Old Milton Parkway, Suite 116, and limited to no more than 1,960 square feet. 2, conditional use approval shall be limited to Reserve 116 event venue. No additional special event facilities use or subleasing shall be permitted within the approved space. Condition 3, special event facility shall be limited to no more than 100 people with final determination by the fire marshal on maximum capacity. Condition 4 are the hours of operation. And then condition 5, this was the condition that was amended by Planning Commission. It reads, if a parking problem is identified by the city, Reserve 116 event venues shall be required to correct the problem by reducing the capacity of events, providing an off-site parking agreement for parking within 500 feet of the facility, and or providing valet services as approved by staff. Signage indicating no parking in adjacent parking lots shall be posted in a conspicuous place at the event facility. And that concludes the presentation. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Have any questions from council at this time? Thank you, Mr. Woodman. Is the applicant here? Please come forward. If you don't mind, just state your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is Lily Wright. The address of the venue, or is it?
Your address.
Oh, my address.
Residential or business.
12996 Dartmoor Circle, Alpharetta, Georgia. Do you guys have any questions for me? As I do agree with the condition that was given with the Planning Commission.
It's your time, so you can say whatever you like. If we have any questions, I'll be glad to ask it.
Okay. Well, my name is Lily Wright. As I previously mentioned, I've been doing event planning for over 15 years. And I'm very excited to bring an event venue to Alpharetta where I feel like there's a need for it. I'm a mom of 2. I've hosted a lot of birthday parties. I attended many birthday parties where there were restrictions at different venues. So I'm very excited to start my own and to kind of allow the community to kind of have a space where they can create beautiful memories as far as parties are concerned, but also to bring businesses a place where they can hold meetings and educational seminars, photographers to create content. Again, with COVID, things are a little different, and it's not as, similar parties going on. So in order, if we were to get shut down again, I have different ideas as far as allowing creators to come and use that space as for them to create content, to use it as a photography studio, Christmas pictures for families, and things of that nature. So I've kind of planned ahead just in case if we were to shut down and I can't open my doors to host parties, I've kind of planned those kind of things to be held at the venue as well. So I'm very excited to be here and to have my own venue in the city of Alpharetta. So that's it.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant on this?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Councilman Dorito.
First of all, best of luck with your venture here.
Thank you so much.
My daughter's in event planning, so
Awesome.
15 years, that's pretty good. You
Yes.
obviously know what you're doing.
Yes.
Continuing to do it. It's a hard business. Mr. I have just a couple of questions. It was referred to by staff. You can have 3 employees. I'm assuming that's 3 full-time?
Yes.
And when,
Well, starting out, it will be myself. Again, I'll be one of the in-house planners. And my husband as well will be helping me. He's more of the business side, and I'm the creative. And I would like to add on other planners and also a coordinator to kind of facilitate calendar and kind of keep me afloat starting out. And God willing, as I grow, of course, I would love to bring on more employees.
or I was thinking maybe you're going to subcontract out for part-time services for the types of events that you plan there?
Yes.
I assume, okay. Do you plan on having any alcohol at these events?
No, not personally, but again, caterers will be vendors, and so they will have their own, licensing and things of that nature. But I myself would not include alcohol. I'm just pretty much offering this space, and we will, use different caterers, different vendors to kind of bring it on. If someone wants to use my services, I will also reach out to different caterers. But I may just be, giving them my space, and a bride might want her own planner that she's had or worked with previously. So in the contract, it will be noted that they will have to have a caterer that has liquor licensing and all the
Okay.
proper protocols that they will have to follow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this application, now is your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close. We do have someone coming forward. You have 3 minutes, sir. If you will, please speak your name and your address into the microphone for the public record.
Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. I noted in the application that the council is making a decision based on some conditions that might go awry during the approval of this application. Now, I see no problem with this, but I wanted the council to know that there's a note of conditional acceptance on this from the planning department, as I heard. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I would offer a motion tonight to approve the conditional use CU-21-15 Reserve 116 event venue at 4150 Old Milton Parkway, as read tonight and reviewed by Michael, and noting that we will delete item number 5, which I agree with. I think that's up to them. That's their business. We shouldn't be delegating that, as well as the addition in number 6 that says that that parking issue will be addressed should it be a problem. And I kind of hope it is, because you're investing in our city, so I appreciate that. That's my motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve.
I'll second that, Mayor.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, a second by Councilman Dorito. Any discussion?
Well, I guess I threw my discussion into my vote, but yes, I want to thank you. I live down the street. Used to live right around the corner there, so I got 20-some years within a mile of your place, so it's a great location. I think you'll do well. You get in this community and get involved, Chamber of Commerces, et cetera, and spread the word. I think you'll do well, and I appreciate you taking a chance in this city. Thank you.
And I'll just agree with Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. I love Jerusalem Bakery. That's usually the only reason I go into that shopping center. Absolutely. And having been there quite a few times during the rush hour of lunchtime, I don't think parking will be a problem until you're a booming success. So I certainly hope that is the case. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve Reserve 116 event venue 4150 Old Milton Parkway with the conditions as outlined by staff and Mayor Pro Tem Merkel, vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Congratulations. Next item up on the public hearing agenda is the Atlanta Signs Unified Development Code, UDC, text amendment, sign code changes, tenant panels. Consideration of text amendments to the Unified Development Code requested by Atlanta Signs to increase the number of tenant panels allowed on a monument sign in a shopping center from no more than 4 to the number of leasable tenant spaces up to a maximum of 12 tenant panels. Mr. Woodman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The applicant's requested change. Did send Mayor and Council an email this afternoon. The applicant did make a slight change to the requested text amendment. I'll explain that. Have that up on the overhead here. So this item before you is a public hearing request. It's requested by Atlanta Signs, and the request is being made on behalf of the property owner at 4620 Webbridge Road. That's the shopping center that's located at the corner of Webbridge Road and Kimblebridge Road. The Bagel Boys is within that shopping center to help familiarize yourselves with the location. This would apply to a wholesale change to the sign code, though. It's not just specific to that property. So they're requesting text amendments to Unified Development Code Section 2.6 sign code to increase the maximum number of tenant panels that are allowed on a monument sign. The original request was for monument signs regardless of the size of the shopping center. We have two different categories for shopping centers under 50,000 square feet, and then shopping centers over 50,000 square feet. The applicant sent an amendment to their request this afternoon and decided to remove the requested change to shopping centers over 50,000 square feet. So this would only apply to those shopping centers under the 50,000 square feet. So currently, code limits the number of tenant panels on a monument sign to no more than 4. The applicant is asking to allow up to 12 tenant panels on a monument sign. And the applicant states in their application that the amendment is needed in order to accurately convey businesses and services to the public, avoid consumer confusion in locating businesses, and to not damage businesses and property owners by limiting advertising. Staff did review the applicant's request. We do believe that this could potentially be a public safety issue. The overall monument sign area in a shopping center would be 42 square feet. That would not change. That is not proposed to change with the applicant's request. And so we believe this would lead to smaller tenant panels that are less discernible to a motorist. In addition, vehicle navigation is more commonly used these days, especially when we're locating businesses that we're not familiar with. We also, staff looked at sign code regulations in surrounding and nearby jurisdictions just to see how our current code matched up. And I do have a table that I took from the staff report. Just kind of gives you an idea of what the other jurisdictions are doing. Looked at City of Roswell, Johns Creek, Milton, Sandy Springs, Woodstock, Chamblee, and Tucker. What we found is that none of the other jurisdictions really regulate tenant panel signage, the number, but what we did find is that most, except for, I believe, the City of Milton, allowed monument signs that are much larger in area than what we're requiring. And so our concern is, again, that potential public safety issue. I do have a couple examples, or a few examples, that I would like to show you. This is an example of a monument sign along North Point Parkway. So this is in compliance with our code in the city of Alpharetta, no more than 4 tenant panels. You can see the tenant panels for PetSmart, Hobby Lobby, and Dick's here. This is another example along North Point Parkway, no more than 4 tenant panels. And then I just wanted to show, if there were a potential change to allow up to 12 tenant panels, what we could see. And so this is a location on Holcomb Bridge Road in the city of Roswell. This is a public shopping center, and you see a number of tenant panels in this area. This is an example from Johns Creek on State Bridge Road. Again, several tenant panels at the top as well as in this area. From Sandy Springs on Roswell Road, City of Chamblee, and Tucker. So this item was shown to the public at the December 8th Community Zoning Information Meeting. There was one question from the public regarding the number of proposed tenant panels, but no comments either for or against the request. This item was presented and considered by Planning Commission at the January 6th Planning Commission meeting. There was one public comment from a sign company professional stating that the 4 tenant panels may be too few, but the 12 tenant panels may be too many. There was a discussion at Planning Commission among some of the planning commissioners expressing a desire for staff to further research the topic to recommend it if a change to the number of tenant panels is needed. We did, of course, as we reviewed this request, I did consult with our staff that reviews sign permits, Mr. Brett Schroeder, and he did not believe that we've had a lot of complaints that we're not allowing for enough tenant panels within the city. I believe in the last 10 years, we may have had 1, possibly 2 sign exception requests to increase the number of tenant panels, so we do not think that it is a particular issue. Ultimately, planning unanimously recommended to deny the request, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
We have Councilman Binder.
Mr. Woodman, can you just put that comparison chart on the height between the different cities? And ours is 10 feet?
Yeah, so our max monument sign height is 10 feet in all areas of the city except for the downtown. Downtown at 6 feet. But you can see that most of the other jurisdictions are allowing signage that's comparable to that, if not more.
Okay.
But really, it's really the sign area where we're at 42 square feet, and all the jurisdictions except for Milton allow larger sign area than we do.
So like the ones you were showing in that North Point area, that's less than 42 square feet?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I was just trying to get what ours was on there. So.
Sure.
Perfect. Thanks.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir. Is the applicant here? Now's your opportunity to come forward.
I'm Dave West, 5017 Gunners Run, Roswell. I'm with Atlanta Signs. Mind if I sit here and use the overhead?
Andrew, you set up for that?
Is that okay?
Yes, sir, you may.
All right, so I remember reading some years ago, it's not as important what you say as it is what people have understood you to say. And I think that applies here. I completely lost everyone at the last hearing. What happened was I was under the impression that I had to include all shopping centers in my request to change this one limitation. And after the meeting and then reviewing everything, it occurred to me that I couldn't be required to do that. In other words, the shopping centers that Mr. Woodman showed as examples are over 50,000 square foot shopping centers. I don't want to change most of the shopping centers' policy on their sign limitations. In fact, I tend to agree with what they've done. And let me just to put this in perspective, does that get me there? Okay. All right, so that's a monument, and the shopping center is at the top, so it identifies the property, and then you have these individual panels, and that's what we're discussing. That's the tenant panels. So for every space where there's a retail business, then they can put their name or logo out there on the side of the road, you know, in other words, pizza, chiropractor, dentist, and so forth. What City of Alpharetta has done is they sort of used a broad brush approach, and they limited the number of those tenant panels, those sections, number of tenants, to 4. When you have 25 to 50 retail stores in a shopping center, that would be a lot of tenant panels. It's more tenant panels than a motorist could possibly absorb driving down the road trying to find a particular business. So I get that. It makes a lot of sense. These shopping centers also have very large anchor stores. You may have noticed Target and so forth. That is an entirely different environment. The buildings are taller, parking lot's much bigger, you have a much better view of the property overall. And, my request got lost on all of those shopping centers and the malls. And that was never the intent. I have a project, and I was looking for some good examples for this meeting and realized that the project that started all of this is the perfect example. It's a shopping center that is 12,640 square feet. They have 8 tenants. And that's not that uncommon. There's quite a few of them. This is the sign that they have now, and it's an awful eyesore. It is one of the worst examples of a monument at a shopping center I've ever seen. And so we were going to upgrade that. Yeah, okay, this is my best example. To that. In other words, we're going to replace what you just saw with this. Now, the small shopping strip center has 8 tenants. And the problem came up that all 8 tenants want to and need to be represented on the landmark, on the, the monument, the marker, the thing that people will see first when approaching that property. Now, what they're doing, they were solving a big problem, and apparently they've solved the problem. You can't have 50 tenant panels on a giant monument and expect anyone to ever derive any benefit from that, So here we have the same structure as I was just showing you with 4 tenant panels. And it makes absolutely no sense why we should penalize these small shopping strip centers. And what's important to this matter, these are small, locally owned and operated businesses. These are not national brands, for the most part. You can have a Subway in the shopping strip centers. You have businesses that are known, but for the most part, these are little mom and pop operations, locally owned and operated small retail businesses. And this is a very important advertising instrument for these small businesses in shopping centers in a tenant space. So 4 tenant panels makes a lot of sense when you're eliminating 25, 35, 50 tenants on a sign. That is ridiculous. It's been done in the past, and it never makes any sense to me either. While fixing that problem, I feel they've really harmed another whole set of properties all throughout the market area. Often, the property owner, the shopping center owner, are locals who purchased or inherited a piece of commercial land and developed that into a shopping strip center. And then they lease to locally owned businesses, putting in a small retail business. They're usually lower lying, They have a much lower profile. The roof line is about half the height of Target, for example, or Home Depot, or any of the other chains. And so what I'm asking, that in the case of these small strip centers, under 50,000 square feet of leasable space, that they can have up to 12 tenants represented. You know, when the developer built the shopping center, he was approved to have a shopping center that had 12 tenants, or 10, or 8, or 5, whatever that number was. Average is about 8. Everyone agreed to that. Then when he started leasing space, opened up for business, the whole project's completed, money is spent. Then we say, but the people that are doing business on your property, only 4 of them can get exposure on the monument, and we control that decision. And you can only have 4 of your tenants. I looked right across the street from this property, another nice, well under 50,000 square feet strip shopping center, and I just captured a couple of pictures. It's actually 2 buildings. One's in front of the other. One's on one elevation, and one's behind it, and it's on the other elevation. You know, you've got an intersection there. And this is, and I apologize, I've forgotten the name of the streets, but the property I'm talking about is just right over here, across the street, right over here. All right, so if you look at that monument, there's a couple of problems with it. It is completely ineffective. There's 4 tenants on there. Now, I'm going to allude to something, but I want you to understand, I'm not asking to change it. I'm not bringing it up as an issue. I just want to point out to people who listen that they want a solid background. In other words, the signs are illuminated from the inside of the sign, and the light goes through the acrylic. You know, you got a lighted sign face. We've all seen, you know, signs lit up at night. What they're having them do there, or here, excuse me, in this example, is use solid metal panels, then route out those white letters that you see, then apply white acrylic to the back side of those black panels, and then those panels slide into place. The reason you have them segmented, as in this example here, is so that if someone moves or someone moves in, you can slide that one panel out, put their information on a new panel, and slide it in, and so forth. That's just a common way to facilitate, you know, change-outs. What they also did, and here's the real problem, and you probably don't even, you can see this, right? Can you guys see what I've got right here? Yes. All right. It's probably not occurred to you, but one of the things that you rely on visually are what's called the retainers, and that's the metal structure that is the sleeve where the panel slides in, like the Avery Dennison. I just put a vendor's logo on there. So there's a tenant panel. That's an individual panel, and they are separated by the retainer. In this example right here, you've got, remember, the light cannot come through those black panels. They wanted to really subdue the glare or the unattractiveness of tenant panels. And I've seen some. They have the retainers also black. So during the day and at night, that's just a bunch of words on a square. You cannot differentiate one business. What is one business and then where does the next one begin? It's very confusing to the eye. And it's basically the most expensive tenant panels and the least expensive tenant panels you could ever dream up. Far more involved. This first shopping building has 8 tenant spaces. And you see the 4 tenants there. What other 4 businesses are in that shopping center right there? Till you decide to pull off the road, go into the shopping center parking lot, can you then focus on the building and the signs over the door? That's a very ineffective method of facilitating what signs really are about. For the most part, they're directional. They help you identify what you're looking for or who you're looking for. Incidentally, 2 tenant spaces in that same shopping center are vacant. See, this makes it very difficult for the property owner to lease the space because they're not going to be on the sign. And that's a cause for concern. They're going to be very dependent on that monument. And here's why. Because it helps to convey the fact that they exist as a business. They don't have a big advertising budget. They don't really have any way of communicating what they're doing or where they are. I mean, internet's a wonderful thing, but at the end of the day, if someone's driving down the road and they want a donut, they're looking for the word donut or Krispy Kreme, right? Dunkin' Donut. Without that monument out by the road, a lot of police are going to just zoom right past it, and they won't cue in that they're there. Now, when you put in the address that you're looking for, you know where you want to go do business, but you've never been there, so you put it in your GPS. When you don't see what you had driven there to visit, it's cause for pause. They're either going to hesitate or they're just going to drive by and then have to turn around, and do a reroute. And I don't mean to belabor the point, but without these considerations, I don't think anyone can really see or feel the impact on this. But it's the small local mom and pop retailers all over Alpharetta, in every market USA. And they depend on these. I haven't come to the defense of the big shopping centers and malls. That's an entirely different scenario. And I made a very big mistake coming to believe I had to include them in my original request. And so that's what has changed since the public hearing. It was the thing that they were most against. I finally realized in retrospect that you can't have that many tenants. And I agree. That's just as ineffective as anything. But when you're talking about shopping centers that have 6, 8, 10, 12 tenants, and only 4 of them can be on the sign, you can imagine the frustration, the anxiety, the reluctance, first of all, to rent the space. Of course, I'm sure the property owner wouldn't even bring that up until after the fact, and then he'd just have to face the music on that next. It's an unnecessary limitation. It does not make the sign any less effective. These spaces that you're seeing in that image are 45 inches wide, and they have a 10-inch height. And that's all 8 of the tenants. And they have to be on both sides. You can't put 4 tenants on one side and 4 tenants on the other side. That's like being open 4 days a week. You know, the only analogy I can think of. And that's a pretty standard size, and you can read an 8-inch letter 100 feet away. So those tenant panels are large enough that you can, at a glance, spot what's in that shopping center before you've passed the entrance. And that is the argument that I want to make this evening in favor of only one change, and that is a change under the section that relates to property shopping strip centers under 50,000 square feet. I took a drive on Google Maps, and I pulled up to this shopping center, and there's 7 tenant panels there. Now, what we have here is a case of grandfathered in. In other words, that monument was there before they limited everyone to 4 tenant panels. And again, I think the 4 tenant panels was a very good decision for the very large shopping centers. It makes perfectly good sense. And here's one example where you had the nice stone work and you had the 4 stores, you know, all recognizable names. It's a beautiful solution. And then that draws all the traffic. And then all of your smaller retailers benefit from all of that built-in traffic. But these little shopping centers, they don't have a big anchor store. They just stand alone, and they have tenant space available for people that want to work 80 hours a week, I guess. But this was a perfect example. I just got lucky. You got 7 tenants, and you have 8 tenant spaces. But Sola Salons, they took 2 tenant spaces. So the sign guy took the retainer, the vertical retainer, out of the middle, and then just slid in one long panel for that top one. So that's kind of the anchor store, you know, for this little shopping strip. These are common, and they're everywhere we go. And that monument on the side of the road is a critical element to growing a business in those shopping centers, sustaining their existence, you know, attracting new customers. Everyone underestimates how much signs impact a business because it's all so invisible. But all of us, if we ever really just consciously think about it, being in the sign business, I think about it. I'm consciously aware of it. We're all affected at some point when we're in our vehicle by a sign, and we make a decision based on a sign we saw. We've all done it at least once in our life, and it's more common than not. Any questions about any of this? Have I been clear on what I'm asking for?
I'll go to questions first, and that'll tell us whether you were clear or not.
Okay, all right.
Mayor Pro Tem Markle.
Can you put the first sign up there that you had that you want to replace? It's got,
Is this one?
yeah.
That's the one that's there now, yep.
I have to ask Mr. Schroeder, is that in compliance? I count five signs.
It's close, but it's got 5 tenants on it. I didn't do it.
It would currently not be in compliance with the code, but when that sign was built, it would have been in compliance with the number of tenants that are on there. So
Your
we
4
let that go.
limitation started after that was built.
Do you know when the 4 limitation started?
Not positive. I think the 4 started in 2010, I believe, and this sign, I want to say, was 2006 or 7 when that center was built.
Yeah. Okay. And while you're up there, the last picture you showed, on Windward.
Oh, yes.
Do we know if that's in Alpharetta?
That is not in the city of Alpharetta.
Okay.
It's not city?
No, it's not in the city of Alpharetta.
It could have an Alpharetta mailing
Didn't
address,
realize
not be in a city.
Yeah, I believe that is Milton. I believe that's up Highway 9.
I just wanted to confirm that you
Yeah.
Yeah.
were correct and I wasn't.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
And there's one other point that I did want to make, but I completely forgot to address, and I think this is important. Alvarado was trying to fix the problem of too much visual clutter on these big monuments with these shopping centers that have 25-plus retailers. Again, I get that. And now I forgot my point. It was really important, very important. Any other questions? Hopefully I'll remember.
Any other questions from council? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there is anyone that would like to come forward, please do so. You have 3 minutes, and as before, just state your name and address for the public record, please.
Hello, Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. I want to make note that the city made reference to public safety, and it was questionable whether public safety was a proper concern. No offense, no problems. I dine at that place with that sign, and you're right, I do stop because I see it, and sometimes I park next to it. But the point is, the public safety was brought forward by the city and other jurisdictions, was brought forward to the city. So, in referencing other jurisdictions, this will come up later. Just make note of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
Are there any other public comments at this time?
I
Seeing none?
remembered my final comment. I can't
Feel free.
find a sign ordinance, not that I've read them all, that limit or even talk about the number of tenant panels that are allowed. In the case, what I'm requesting is up to 12. That there's, and the reason that I'm going along with a limit is because that's what Alpharetta wants to do. They want to say how many tenant panels that a property can have in their monument. I'm saying 12 for one simple reason. The cabinet size that is allowed that house the tenant panels can only facilitate a total of 12. More than 12 would not fit. Then we would have to discuss a larger cabinet. The cabinet that I've been showing you is the small cabinet of the two. This is the most common cabinet, which is larger than everything I've shown you. And there's 8 tenants, 39 inches by 15 inch dimension. That's the visual opening of each of those panels. And that would be very visible, very clean. That's why I'm saying 12. The only other solution from that point would be a larger cabinet. Then I'm not going to make that argument. The shopping center is not going to get more tenant panels than they have tenant spaces. And most of the properties that fall in the category of what we're discussing here don't usually have more than 8. Some can have as many as 12. So if they do, 12 would fit. So I thought that 12 should be the number stated as the maximum, because it's simply no more would fit on there effectively. And so that was and it's just not something that's done. I'm sure everyone in the United States will follow Alpharetta's lead on this. And hopefully we can fix the one minor problem that it created for all of the smaller businesses. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. That being said, we've closed public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'd offer a motion tonight to deny the request for Unified Development Code text amendment related to monument sign, tenant panels, and shopping centers.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second. I believe that was Councilman Heights that beat you to the punch. And that was to deny the application for Atlanta Signs United Development Code, text amendment, sign code change, tenant panels, consideration of text amendments to the Unified Development Code requested by Atlanta Signs as outlined by staff.
Mr. Mayor, we do have an ordinance title, so it should be read even if the motion's to deny.
Thank you for pointing that out, sir.
An ordinance to amend Article 2 of the Unified Development Code of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to amend the number of tenant panels allowed on a monument sign in a shopping center, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. And the motion would include the ordinance as read by City Attorney. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please
Sir,
vote.
if I just could say,
My apologies.
no, I just want to appreciate the applicant for the diligence that you did take. The vote may not go down the way you want, but maybe another route of trying to do it one off of just what you're looking for. But I just don't see this as a policy change. But did think you make valid points maybe for some of those areas and work that way on the one-offs, but no way that I'd want to make this part of a process for everywhere.
You want to go ahead and work on that variance tonight?
Any other discussion? Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you. I do think you made some good points about having the divided. Having more than that, our mall, it operates, Avalon operates with just a few tenants listed on their monument signs. The smaller locally owned businesses operate just fine. The one that was in question, Kimball Bridge Road, where Bite is, there's only 4 listed, but if this were the 1970s, a lot of your argument would have made sense. And I think, to me personally, but it's 2022, and I looked on my MapQuest. All I did was enlarge it, and I know every tenant that's in that shopping center. And I think 90% of our consumers these days is able to find that and able to find the direction. And so, if anything, I think monument signs are not as necessary as they were 20 years ago. But thank you.
Councilman Will, did you want the floor?
Yeah, I actually have been subject to this limitation in business in some of my restaurants. And we knew that going in, right? So we knew that our signs would be in rotation or that we would have to buy that space. That's something we knew as a business owner when we decided to open up shop there. I think part of the argument you're making, and herein lies the problem, is you're making an argument that people are being damaged. But we haven't taken rights away from them. They knew that that was a limitation when they did it. The people that own the shopping center knew that that was a limitation when they bought that center and when they tried to lease it. So we're not taking anybody's rights away. That was something that was already part and parcel of what they're doing. So based on that, you know, the argument just, it doesn't stand.
Councilman Hypes.
I would further make the argument off of what Councilman Will had to say, that part of the attractiveness of locating a business in Alpharetta is the attractiveness of Alpharetta. I am all too familiar with Jimmy Carter Boulevard. I am all too familiar with Buford Highway. I'm all too familiar with portions of 141 where it is the Wild West and it is visual clutter. And we are a community that aspires to be something. Our residents appreciate our aesthetics. The businesses want to be here to be near those residents and to serve those residents. There is an old saying about, killing the goose that lays the golden egg. The aesthetics of this city are of high value, not just to the residents, but to the businesses who want to be here to serve those residents. And to Mr. Will's point, they come here knowingly for low-profile signage. And a particular style that is Alpharetta. And I, for one, while I appreciate your passion, cannot reach the same conclusion.
Any other discussion? I'll just say that I agree with the points that have already been made, so I won't be redundant on that. The one thing, going back to the specifics of the ordinance that we're addressing here, is the applicant presented, up to 50,000 square feet. Well, 50,000 square feet can be a lot of businesses. And so you're simply stretching the line. So if we had a 50,000 square foot building with, say, 14 tenants, okay, so they've got 6 or they've got 8, but they're never going to have 50, I would hope, or 20, So I think I too would be amenable to talking about something that was a 10,000 square foot center and what was appropriate for that. But I don't support this application. That being said, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion to deny the item for Atlanta Signs United Development Code text amendments and the ordinance as read by City Attorney, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up on the public hearing agenda was deferred. There were only 3. Nope, there we go. Yeah, I know. It was split on 2 pages, so I got a little confused. Third item is the Unified Development Code text amendments for the downtown sign code. Consideration of text amendments to the Unified Development Code to add regulations for signage in the downtown overlay. Director Cook, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This next item, staff had organized a committee to research appropriate downtown sign regulations. It was basically updates from what we'd seen from cases that were going to the Design Review Board, some of the issues they were having at the Design Review Board, whereby maybe they're encouraging an applicant not to have a sign cabinet or backlit signage. However, they're still continuing to submit that type of lighting. So we put a committee together that included the DRB members last year, as well as we had 2 representatives from sign companies and staff to go through what would be appropriate updates to the downtown code. And just a reminder of the downtown overlay district. It's a large district. We had changed that back in 2015, so it's a larger area. Before 2015, it was actually just a small area that was concentrated in what was called at that time the Central Business District. So we're looking at making recommended changes to the downtown overlay district. They would include prohibiting sign cabinets, prohibiting face illuminated signs, and add design regulations applicable to external illumination, monument signs, wall signs, perpendicular or hanging signs, and window signs. And they put together some renderings, some pictures I think are really good to show you what they came up with and what they're suggested. So they are recommending that cabinet signs, as well as the backlit signs, cabinet sign here, backlit sign would not be permitted within the downtown. There's also code regulations that are recommended, that the use of symbols, things that relate to the building, materials, that it's the materials that are limited to wood, HDU, sign foam, and metal. So these are things that you would see within a downtown. They're also making recommendations that the materials are layered and routed with a minimum 3-inch thick overall. And that's to make sure that you don't have flat signage. Of course, if you have that, the 3-inch thickness and you have some offset, there's more interest to a sign. There's also some recommendations regarding the window graphics. So there's some language that was added to where by the signage that's added to the windows, that it's not separated. You can see here where the words are separated from the top to the bottom. So the regulations would require that the words be together and not separated as you see within this picture. Regulations also require that monument signs include multiple layers and materials that relate to the design and use of the business. And that's something that we've always incorporated and required, that usually if you have brick on the building, you're going to have a brick monument sign. So encouraging the layers within the downtown for monument signs. There are also regulations that pertain to lighting and what's appropriate for the lighting level and color. And they did recommend that a color range be limited to 2K to 5K, and that is in between the blue and the yellow. So they didn't want to be too far on the yellow side or the blue side. So you'll see some regulations that talk about limiting the color. And then specifically, I'll put those code changes up here. So under the prohibited section, we did add 29 and 30. Cabinet signs prohibited in the downtown overlay. Face illuminated channel letter signs in the downtown overlay. We also have signs permitted within the downtown overlay. And we added to number 1, monument signs shall have a multidimensional surface and have materials that relate to the exterior of the building. And 2, if external illumination is used, lighting fixtures shall be minimized or obscured from public view unless it is part of the overall architectural design of the building. And finally, 3 through 7. 3 deals with the illumination. 4, routed or layered material signs shall have a minimum thickness of 3 inches. 5, signs representing symbols related to a business shall use materials limited to wood, high-density urethane, sign foam, and metal. And 6, perpendicular hanging signs shall use wood, high-density urethane, sign foam, metal, or other unique materials as determined by the Design Review Board and high design details. And I didn't mention, but when we went to the Planning Commission, we did end this number 6 with just, there should be other unique materials. Planning Commission asked us to make that stronger, so we did add as determined by the Design Review Board. And then 7, window signage shall have graphics with 1 font and 1 color. Colors shall be limited to white, gold, and frosted. Logos shall be no more than 1/4 of the window graphic and shall be permitted to be full color. Window graphics shall be limited to 1 area of the window. Street numbers in the transom above a door shall not count against the maximum allowable window signage area. And that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Councilman Hypes.
Evening, Director Cook. I'm very happy to see that we've taken a comprehensive look at this and tried to get some consistency. And I have a question about something I've seen, but I'm not sure if it falls in this category. And that is whether it's temporary screening or permanent. And I'm going to use Taffers and Hamilton Hotel as an example. They screened while it was under construction, and they had signage in the screening in the windows. And, you know, that's, to my way of thinking, a very good look while it's under construction. And secondly, maybe a desired look, maybe, maybe not, depends what the owner wants to do. Is that subject to any of this analysis that we're doing here, proposal, and does it fall within it, not within it?
That's a question that we've had over the last couple of years, and it's something that we've been trying to resolve of what makes sense in the code. And that's something we can look at again, but it's not currently addressed in here.
I've seen it in other cities, and I think it looks far more attractive and helps the business to be, especially when it's under construction. to screen the windows with their logo to let people know what's coming rather than to look inside and see metal studs and empty space. So if that's not subject to any of this and doesn't belong in this presentation, I'd be curious to see if we could address that at some point in time.
And I think one way, what we were running into is there was an issue about we could not control what it said or depictions if it's something that's under construction, since we're not supposed to look at the actual content. So I think that was part of the issue, and it may be that we have to, when we go back and look at it, is we take it to design review board, so it's something that, even though it's a temporary construction fence, that may be what we need to do. So we'll relook at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Will.
I'm going to assume that we have 1,000+ businesses violating these new ordinances. Is this only for new signage that's going up?
This would be just for new. Existing signage would be grandfathered.
Okay. And it is only downtown, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And there would be a ordinance for this.
Do we have any other questions for staff? Mr. Stacy, would you like to read the ordinance before I forget?
An ordinance to amend Article 2 of the Unified Development Code of the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, to add a definition for channel letter sign, to add prohibited signs in the downtown overlay, to add sign regulations for signs permitted in the downtown overlay, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there is anyone here that would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to approve the Unified Development Code text amendments, downtown sign code, consideration of text amendments to the Unified Development Code to add regulations for signage in the downtown overlay, as was presented tonight by staff and read by Mr. Stacy.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Hypes, and that was to approve Unified Development Code, UDC text amendments, downtown sign code, consideration of text amendments to the Unified Development Code to add regulations for signage, and the ordinance as read by City Attorney Mike Stacy. All those in favor of is there any discussion first? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And that does pass unanimously. And seeing as how the fourth item was deferred this evening, we'll move on to the old business. First item under old business, only item under old business, is speed zone ordinance extension. This is the second reading. Director Sisevich.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There have been no changes since the first reading.
Any questions from council at this time? Thank you, sir. There is an ordinance to this. Mr. Stacy, would you like to read it, please?
There's actually not, Mr. Mayor. It's an extension, so there's no ordinance title.
I can't win for losing on that. That being said, it is the second reading. There's been no changes, so there's no public comment on this item. Is there a motion from council?
Mayor, I move to approve the speed zone ordinance extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the speed zone ordinance extension. The motion was made by Councilman Dorito, second by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And Councilman Mitchell is absent from the vote. It does pass. I thought I saw it there for a second. And it does pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that. That'll wrap up old business. We'll move on to the new business items. First new business item is ITB 22-006 FY22 sidewalk repair and replacement.
Yes. Mayor and council, part of the FY22 capital budget were funds to start repairing our sidewalks throughout the city. Public Works decided to split this up into 2 bids instead of utilizing all the funds at once, take a small bite of the apple and try to get some smaller firms to be more competitive pricing given what was going on with the market. So part of the project was about 5,700 linear feet of sidewalk repairs. That includes multiple handicap ramps as well. We received a total of 5 bids that came in, and Accelerate Construction was the low bidder at $498,000. We've done work with them in the past, and they are very capable of getting this work done in the next 120 days from the notice to proceed.
Thanks, sir. And I know we spoke about this last week, and I actually talked about something. I did not compare the map until this weekend. So I just wanted to bring something to your attention that I know a lot of these assessments were done several years ago. There is one, it's too late to bid, and I'm not going to make you go rebid it for this particular one, but there is a section on West Side Parkway across from Avalon. I believe it's just north of the exercise park there.
Okay.
Where it looks like a square of maybe 4 by 4, whatever those sections of sidewalk there has collapsed.
Gotcha.
Several inches. So if you could have someone else go out there and work on that, that'd be great.
Will do.
Thank you, sir. I could have just done it on the app, C-Click Fix, but I didn't have my camera available to walk out there today. Yes. Thank you, Pete.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, Mr. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, sir.
But if there is anyone that would like to come forward and speak on the sidewalk repair bid, now's your chance. Pete, I believe that we have someone that wants to speak.
Do you want your notes? Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. How unusual tonight we should be talking about sidewalks. What a good topic I wanted to talk about. You know why? Because you guys can save a lot of money. $400,000 was it? That's a lot of money. Because what we have declared from our city fire marshal is that lawn is acceptable. And I think you know, Mr. Stacy, that you got the reading lawn is a subject of what we're going to talk about. So, y'all have been read into what I hope the limitations of what lawn is. So we might actually need that sidewalk. So I'll vote for the sidewalk. I'll vote for an accessible route. Got it? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to come speak on the sidewalk bid? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Mayor, I move to approve ITB 22-006, fiscal year 22 sidewalk repair and replacement, to approve the funding in amount not to exceed $498,000 to Accelerate Construction LLC for the fiscal year 22 sidewalk repair and replacement project, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Councilman Binder, and that was to approve ITB 22-006, fiscal year 22 sidewalk repair and replacement, and funded in an amount not to exceed $498,000 to Exceler Construction LLC for the fiscal year 22 sidewalk repair, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
You're welcome, Pete. Next one, Pete, is City Project Management Services, RFQ 22-1002.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is an exciting one for Public Works, where this is the start of us moving forward with T-Splosh 2, as well as some of the park bond projects. What we solicited 5 years ago was program management for T-Splosh 1 projects. It's an extension of staff, helping the field, work with our engineers and our design teams to keep the projects moving. Issued an RFQ and received 3 statement of qualifications from firms. Atkins North America was the highest rated firm. They also were the firm that has been working with us for the last 5 years as well. Are currently under contract with Webbridge Road, North Point Parkway, improvements, Old Mill Parkway widening as we proceed through those. So this is going to be a task order contract. So we'll choose a project. Let's say it's going to be the Alpha Loop for construction. We'll get a proposal from them, bring it forward through the procurement process for Mayor and Council to approve in association with the contractor that's selected to move forward. So same thing with design. We'll move forward. We'll get a proposal from them, bring it forward to Mayor and Council for award in association with the overall project. So if the project doesn't move forward, of course, their scope of work, their task order does not move forward.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any questions from council? Councilman Will.
I've got a question. When I was reading this, it struck me as odd. I've had this conversation with several people today, but when we chose this company to do the work for us, it says we did 35% of the decision was made on construction, 35 was made on technical, and 30 on technical, 35 on lead, and 35 on construction. I don't see any qualification or anything that deals with money.
Typically in the past for us, when we do professional services, hiring somebody for their expertise, it's usually a very low price component where it doesn't really change who's one or two, or we don't include it at all. In this particular case, working with procurement, we just didn't include it, knowing that we wanted the best firm possible to do the work.
So my question is, and I'm the new guy here, so I apologize for some of these questions, but my question is, if there's no monetary qualification for this contract we're about to award, what gives them any motivation to give us a good price on the work they do when we haven't asked up front what that hourly rate or anything else would be? I feel like we've put ourselves in a position where we've awarded a contract that has no monetary limitation, and from their perspective, they've already won it, so why give us a deal? I guess that's the part that I'm struggling with.
They provide us rate sheets, and we've been working with them in the past 5 years. So we have their rate sheets from this current year right now. So if their rate sheet was for a field inspector was listed at $125 an hour, and all of a sudden they submit me something for $225, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling, I'm like, we need to talk.
So we do have rate sheets. We do have some kind of guidance that we're using.
Yes, sir.
That we can go back and ask them to justify.
Yes. And it's a unit price, it's an hourly based, so it's not a lump sum. So if they only spend 10 hours on something that they thought we're gonna spend 100, they don't get the additional 90 hours at that rate.
And I'm with you, but that rate sheet, have we compared that rate sheet to other of these other vendors?
We do contact throughout, working with Sean Mitchell in procurement and Tom Harris, other firms are what they're at. I will tell you that the old expression, you get what you pay for. What we're paying for is expertise in the field on some very large scale projects. For example, they worked on the Windward, or the Big Creek Greenway extension, where we built a tunnel underneath the Windward Parkway. We didn't want somebody who's never built one of those tunnels assisting us in the field with that. And they bring some great value engineering to that one, where in that particular case, through their expertise, they eliminated a retaining wall by shifting the tunnel a few degrees to the south. So we're confident, and we also we check up on them, and we've got other firms that we do work with, as well as design firms too. So we can easily, when those proposals come in, compare apples to apples.
Okay, thank you for educating me on that. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone wants to come forward, now's your chance to do so. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do you have a motion from council?
Yes, Mayor. I move to award RFQ 22-1002 for city project management services to Atkins North America, Inc., and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion by Councilman Dorito, a second by Councilman Will. And that was to approve the award of RFQ 22-1002 for city project management services to Atkins North America and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Any discussion? All those in favor, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote accordingly. And just pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Pete. Don't go too far. I've got you down for this next one. Oh.
Looks like it would be his.
That's quite all right. Ms. Cook, please assume the floor.
Somewhat joint that we worked on this, and I do appreciate his help. So this next one before you it's the Lakeview Park development that has specific streetscape design requirements. Basically, when we went through zoning and everything that we've approved required that the trees be located along the street. And let me put a map up here to show you the location. At one time, we referred to this as Tech 360. Now we're calling it Lakeview. 400 Haynesbridge Road. So going through the development process, again, we required the trees right up to the edge of the street. Fulton County did not want the trees located at the edge of the street. They said that they've had too many impacts over the years to their water lines. So they looked back to how could they work with the city, how could they work with the developer. So the agreement before you would actually be an agreement that if the water line does fail and it's repaired by Fulton County would be responsible for making the repair and then installing concrete on top of the repair, and then it requires Alpharetta to come out with the asphalt pavement and be responsible for the paving. There is a secondary agreement with TPA, and it would be required as part of their final plat or any certificate of occupancies, that prior to that there's an agreement in place that the asphalt would actually fall back to the developer. And again, that's to try to get this tree-lined streets that you may, exist that we've required on Thompson Street. This is actually Milton Park. Requirements we've had through the years. However, they've found that there's just been too many repairs required. And so Fulton County's requirement now is that there would not be any trees within the 20-foot water line easement. So if there's any questions on that particular agreement, I'd be glad to try to answer that.
Any questions from council at this time? Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Thank you.
I do have a question for City Attorney Mike Stacy. The only concern I have here is the potential exposure that the city would have if there's an issue, whether it's with the agreement between TPA and the city. Do you feel like there is, as I know, no attorney's ever going to tell me there's no liability, no chance of liability. Do you feel like there is very little risk on this agreement?
We have built into the agreement with TPA every protection that we can. I will tell you that if the developer, and really it would transfer to the HOA or Property Owners Association, because eventually the developer is going to cease as an entity, most likely. But if the Property Owners Association or the HOA or the developer just ceased to exist or was bankrupt, the city would have to then make a decision about making the repair on its own dime. So there's not 100% security, but we have built in every protection that we can.
And Ms. Cook, maybe you can chime in on this one. So when I think about this, I know, as far as I know, in my time in the city of Alpharetta, we've never done an assessment, but, I know it's done in municipalities, counties, and things. If you were going to put in a water line extended into an area that didn't have it, you would charge a one-time assessment for that infrastructure improvement. It would be my thought that I don't mind assuming that liability if the city could then charge some type of assessment if we were ever forced to shoulder that burden.
Like if there was an emergency and we had to because they weren't
Well, if
stepping
it happens
up.
in under those unusual circumstances, the development's gone bankrupt or whatever, if for some reason the city of Alpharetta deemed those repairs necessary and the owner of that property couldn't fund them, is there any way for us to assess that property owner for improvements on their property?
Well, we have an indemnity agreement with the developer, and again, we hooked in I believe we hooked in the Property Owners Association because the concern was typically these developers are single-purpose entities, so they're going to cease to exist at some point, and the money would moved out of there. So it would be on the HOA. As far as bringing in individual property owners, I think we would probably be hard-pressed to do that. Again, there's no 100% way to do this right now because we don't know who those property owners are going to be. Or even really, we don't even have a final plan. So,
Well, it would have to be on the final plat, so all of the legal agreement would have to be referenced on our final plat because that's the legal document that's filed permanently for the property.
so we're continuing to talk with them. I mean, there's certainly aspects about what kind of backfill goes in and who's going to top it, and the restoration work, which we're going to make sure is the responsibility of the developer. But again, it's at this early stage, to be able to get this done the way that everybody wants to get it done, we had to create this sort of daisy chain approach. But it's not, again, if the money's not there and there's nobody left holding the bag that has money, it's just the reality of the situation. The city would, at that point, would have to make a decision about stepping in and completing the work if it were to happen.
And it is for the asphalt topping only. So Fulton County still has the responsibility for the repair, filling any repair with concrete. So we're talking about the topping, which would be the asphalt, which we would also have the separate agreement to give that back to TPA. But ultimately, Fulton County is not backing away from the repairs of the water line. It's just the asphalt at the top. And then with the final plat, we don't record the final plat until the roads are actually built. They can't start the building of the roads. It's being graded right now until this is worked out because they can't locate trees along the edge. Plus, we would not give, certificate of occupancies. All of that would be held until there was an agreement that everyone's satisfied with.
And if you could, Ms. Cook, refresh my memory. I know in Avalon, the roads internal to the project are private property.
Correct.
In this mixed-use development, are those roads public roads?
They're private roads. They're private, but Fulton County would not permit the street trees without this type of an agreement. And we
That's fine, but as long as they own the roads,
yes.
I don't care if they're dirt roads. That's their liability. If it were public roads where regardless we were going to be on the hook for taxpayer money to repave them, that'd be different. So we've got a little more leverage in that position and a little less liability, in my opinion.
And again, if we're talking about the...
Our agreement gives it back to TPA. I'm sorry? You go up here and correct me if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, the roadways will be public roads, and we are providing basically the indemnity for Fulton County, and TPA is backfilling that indemnity for us. Or not TPA, but the Property Owners Association. TPA is assessors and assigns.
We don't have that agreement yet.
We do have that agreement. It's been executed.
It has been executed, okay.
Yes.
Right.
But, and I think what the mayor was talking about, it doesn't act as a public road if we're giving the requirements back to TPA for the construction, for the repairs.
This is not going to be a connecting road that is going to be a vital connection for public access. This will be basically an internal roadway similar to the internal roadways of Avalon. And that was our discussion with Mr. Stacy, that this really is a private road, but we're trying to finagle this so that we can get our streetscapes that we required them to do during zoning.
Another one.
Okay.
Park.
I'll turn over the floor to any other council members that may have a question at this point. Seeing none? Thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
But if there's anyone that would like to come forward and speak on this, now's your opportunity to do so.
Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. Y'all are probably picking up on a pattern by now. I hope you are, because the word was liability used here. You were concerned about taxpayer money, aren't you? That's what I heard. So I'm concerned about my liability and what the city has transferred over to me. So if you guys want to protect your money, I want to protect my money. Thank you.
If there's anyone else that would like to come forward and speak on this item, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion to approve the IGA between Fulton County and the City of Alpharetta for the repair and maintenance of infrastructure with Lakeview Park, as was presented this evening by staff.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Councilman Dorito, and that was to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Fulton County, Georgia, and the City of Alpharetta, Georgia, for repair of roadways and environs at the Lakeview development, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the IGA between Fulton County and Alpharetta, please vote yes, otherwise vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up, Ms. Cook, according to my agenda, you are presenting.
Yes, and is that the on-call planning service?
That is the on-call
Okay.
planning services contract award.
Thank you. So community development occasionally utilizes consultant planning services, which can include assistance with code revisions that we may have, urban planning, landscape architecture. Public outreach is a big part of what we use the on-call for. So we update that every 5 years. So we issued September 9th the RFQ, and proposals were due on October 14th. We had 8 different consultant teams respond. 3 were shortlisted for interviews. Star Whitehouse and Kimley Horn were the top 2 scoring firms, which combined the RFQ response as well as the interview. And staff is recommending awarding the contract to Star Whitehouse and Kimley Horn and Associates. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Any questions from council? Councilman Will.
Sorry, same question.
Yes.
I assume that we have some kind of, again, rate sheet on what they're going to charge us for the services in the future, and it's just not an open-ended deal.
We do. We actually have the hourly for each position. We get the rate sheets, but we also we put 2 on call, so we'll get prices from each sometimes, and it depends on what we're asking for. Like if we're looking for public outreach and we know one of the on call may be better at public outreach, so we'll go to that particular company. But yes, we do have the rate sheets.
And have we used these folks in the past? Did I miss that here?
We have used Kimley Horn in the past. One of the Star Whitehouse would be new to Alpharetta.
And they've done a good job for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, Ms. Cook.
Yes.
Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if there's anyone that wants to come forward and speak on the on-call planning services contract award, now's your chance.
Guess what I'm going to say? Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. You guys knew that. Come on. I'm going to get lighter and lighter, okay, as we go along. I'm almost done. So, landscaping and public outreach. So we have some issues on the table about accessibility that Shopley should come to the public awareness, and maybe even to the city council's awareness, and probably to the building officials as well. Thank you very much for your comment.
Thank you, sir. I'd ask that you please keep your comments related to the item at hand.
Public outreach. Thank you, sir. Heard you and I acknowledge you.
Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'd offer a motion tonight to award a contract to Star Whitehouse and Kimley Horn and Associates under the terms and conditions of the city's on-call planning service contract and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel to award the contract to Star White House and Kimley Horn and Associates under the terms and conditions of the city's on-call planning services contract. Authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. All those in favor? If there's any discussion? If you're in favor, please vote yes for approval of the item. Otherwise, vote no. And it does pass unanimously. Next item up will be the South Main Street LCI Supplemental Study Contract Award. Director Cook, once again, you have the floor.
So I have the area for the creative placemaking plan shown to you on the screen. And just to bring everybody up to date, in 2014, we had an LCI update. That's the downtown plan that was adopted. So since there's an existing LCI on Main Street, we were able to apply for the creative placemaking plan, and this is considered an LCI supplemental study area. Of course, this goes from Old Milton Parkway to Upper Hembury on South Main. Downtown plan stopped at Wills, so this is a little bit of an extension, but we just need to include all of South Main. It just makes sense. And just some history. February 22nd last year, Mayor and Council authorized staff to submit an application to the Atlanta Regional Commission. LCI program seeking grant funding for South Main Street LCI supplemental study. Excuse me. ARC awarded the city $160,000 to complete the study, with the city committed to a 20% match, $40,000. Total project budget of $200,000. The goal, of course, is to develop a plan to improve the South Main Street area, including pedestrian, bicycle, and transportation elements and public space activation. The analysis and recommendations will also look at the LCI's area's economic and development characteristics to prepare a strategy that supports the plan recommendations. And when we were going through the interviews of the different companies, we really liked that some of the companies included an economic development analysis as part of the submittal. We think that's important to see what type of businesses would do well in South Main, that's part of that. We issued the South Main Street LCI supplemental study September. Proposals due October 21st. We had 3 consultant teams that responded to the RFP, and 3 teams were shortlisted for interviews. The HKS project team was the top scoring consultant team, which combined the RFP response as well as the interview. We do recommend awarding the contract to HKS. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Do we have any questions? Councilman Hypes.
Director Cook, I remember when this came up initially and it was all mapped out. Was Alpha Park always part of the study, or is that recently added on, that residential area along DeVore heading towards the mix?
That was added on before we submitted that to the Atlanta Regional Commission.
And in terms of this placemaking plan, do they formulate the ideas and come to us, or do we give them some direction? What's the interplay in terms of how we would like to see this portion of our downtown?
Right. Well, the reason we were impressed specifically with HKS is we liked their approach to getting input from the public, because this needs to be a plan of working with the public. So we sometimes have trouble getting people to respond or participate. So they had some super creative ideas. So the plan is to go to the public, the business owners, and to get their input, and that's what will create the plan that we'll bring to council, to Planning Commission and council.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
No, sir, we do not.
But if anyone wants to come forward, now is your chance to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I offer a motion to approve the award contract, the amount of $200,000 to HKS under the terms and conditions of the city's South Main Street LCI Supplemental Study contract, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
Have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Merkel and a second by Council Will. And that was to approve the award of the contract in the amount of $200,000 to HKS under the terms and conditions of the city's South Main Street LCI Supplemental Study Contract. Authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Any discussion? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes. Kathy, anytime you find an opportunity to turn 40,000 into 200,000, the answer is yes. Just come and let us know. Excellent job. Thank you very much. I know that's not an easy task.
Any other discussion? All of those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Otherwise, vote no.
Oh, no, we're not.
Up. We're going retro. All those in favor of the item, please raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Next item up, and the final item on my agenda at least for the new business, is a memorandum of understanding between Foodwell Alliance, Inc., the Atlanta Regional Commission, and the City of Alpharetta, Georgia. Ms. Muselli, you have the floor.
Hello. Good evening. This is my first time presenting anything in front of you, so I'm really happy to be here this evening. I do want to bring something to your attention. I made a mistake on my staff report. It says that there is no fiscal impact, and in fact, there is. And you probably saw that in the notes, but I just want to bring that to your attention that I did make a mistake on that before I start. Good evening, Mayor and Council. On October 15th, 2011, the Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Services Department applied for the City Agriculture Plan grant, which was offered by Foodwell Alliance and the Atlanta Regional Commission. On December 4th, a community food forum was hosted at Old Rucker Park to gauge the community interest. And then on December 8th, a meeting with city department leaders was hosted to confirm the support and commitment from all city departments in fulfilling a comprehensive city agriculture plan if awarded. On December 17th, Foodwell Alliance notified us that we had been awarded this grant, which includes a comprehensive city agriculture plan and $75,000 to implement a portion or portions of that plan. As outlined in the MOU, which you've received the final draft or the most recent draft of this afternoon, the commitment requirements from the City of Alpharetta are as follows. To provide matching support for the city agriculture plan's implementation, up to $75,000. To provide a dedicated and responsive point of contact. To provide data, adopted plans, reports, and other requested information needed to complete the project. To provide regular updates of the planning process to elected leadership and at the advisory board, which will be formed, to ensure a successful adoption of the plan. Ensuring interim and final deliverables are accessible and available to all responsible municipal parties and provide a summary feedback to the Atlanta Regional Commission and Foodwell Alliance. To provide guidance and feedback to the Foodwell Alliance and ARC regarding project deliverables, public engagement activities, and administrative support where applicable. And to participate in public presentations, reports, and/or media interviews about a city agriculture plan. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from council? Councilman Binder.
It's good to see you. When was the first time that you all submitted for the grant? I'm losing my timeline here between the blip and.
Yes, the first time that we hosted a city food forum, a community food forum, was in February of 2018.
Okay.
We applied for it then and we did not win that grant.
And you've done a fantastic job over the years and kept going after it. And I know they respected you highly. So, with the fiscal impact, are you thinking that's going to be dollars, or I see right here it's between staff time there? What would our fiscal responsibility be?
The fiscal responsibility would not exceed $75,000.
Okay. And are you looking at that, because they said between staff, our equipment and all that, so are you,
Yeah.
what do you think or are you gonna come back later with us, whether it's
I think that once
cash
we once we go through the process, which will involve a lot of community input, we'll have a really better idea of what that dollar commitment will be. Our in-kind commitment with staff time and the land that we're going to be implementing this project on, I think if we were to account for all the staff time that's going to go into it, because we want to have all the departments involved, we will reach that amount pretty quickly. And we want to be able to have some dollars that we can contribute to that project. So for the purpose of the MOU, we were trying to keep those separate. Foodwell Alliance is a really unique organization in that they respect the communities that they work with so much that they put a dollar amount on everything. And that enables communities across the metro area to be able to participate in their grant programs. But what we are hoping to do here is to have some flexibility so that we do have some dollars to contribute, but it would not exceed $75,000, and we will have staff time involved.
Okay. Well,
Councilman, I might be able to give you a little bit of insight, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I did go through with Ms. Basili this contract last week and then again today. The expectation on the part of our department was that there would be a fiscal contribution of 75 and staff time would not reduce from that number. So the staff time will be over and above. However, if you look at the language of the MOU, built into that in-kind support is that it is going to be given solely in the city's discretion. So to the extent that there's any concern, and I'm not advocating for this or against it, but to the extent that there's a concern about how much staff time or other in-kind support is being given, that can be terminated on the basis of the language that's in the MOU currently. But the $75,000 commitment would be separate from any in-kind support.
okay. Now, I'm fully in support of the project. I just like to always know the details so that we're all on the same page. And you've worked multiple years on this. You've told all of us what you've been doing. And I can't say enough, the parks have done a great leadership in that small part of that one park, and you've turned that thing into a little community that you've helped, and it's just always impressive to hear stories of others just really enjoying that, and it really is a good model for activating our public spaces. So I'm supportive, just want to make sure I'll know the details on it, but appreciate it, and I'm glad you got it because you worked hard on it.
Thank you.
Councilman Ipes. Councilman will be next.
Question for you, Ms. Masoli, possibly Mr. Stacy. On page 4 of the MOU, assuming that we'll be making the motion to approve the MOU, the bullet point regarding the funding says implementation of at least $75,000 and not to exceed $75,000. As I hear your presentation, would it be appropriate to eliminate the words of at least $75,000 in that bullet point? That sounds like an appropriation of exactly $75,000.
It is, but it was the result of a little bit of sausage making. Initially, when the MOU was revised, we changed the language to not to exceed 75, and what we got back as far as a comment was that they were not happy with the removal of the words at least. So it sounds like the other side's commitment here is they want us to match that 75 fiscally, which is why it says at least and not to exceed, which got both sides' positions.
Well, for full transparency, if this MOU is approved, it's not an amount up to $75,000. We would be appropriating exactly $75,000.
Correct. With
Just
the
to make sure everybody's clear on what we're voting on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Will and then Councilman Mitchell.
I visited the property. It's a cool little project you guys have got going out there. My question is the $150,000 essentially, which is what we're going to put forward, is that going to make a measurable impact on what you're trying to do based on the goals that you have for the property?
Well, at this point, we don't know where that money will be spent, because the determination of how that money will be spent will come out in the process. of all of the community engagement and as this plan is developed. And then I'll come back in front of you, and the adoption of that plan will happen here, and then we will determine how that money is spent. So it's not my plan and it's not my vision. It's really going to be one that we create together with the community.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you for all the work you've done on this, Amanda. Can you elaborate? It's been a long time coming, but can you elaborate just basically at the end of this grant, if it gets approved tonight, what do you hope to achieve overall? And I know that the community's input will help to kind of frame that, but what is it you're trying to achieve as a community?
That's a really great question. And what I hope that we achieve with this is that we have an overarching plan where we can incorporate agriculture and the sustainable practices that we are practicing at the farm throughout the city of Alpharetta. So I hope that this plan, when and if adopted, can serve as an umbrella for our city when it is put into place. I hope that it can help us create a vision for using agriculture as a lens to further the sustainability measures within our city and elevate the presence of agriculture and food security and local food within our community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. Amanda, thank you very much. I attended the event on December 4th, right after I got elected to the council, and I just have to say I was extremely impressed. I had also visited the site, one of the volunteers prior to that, and did a whole tour and everything. I have to say this is a jewel for the city of Alpharetta. I mean, the students that spoke from Cambridge High School, the teacher that spoke about teaching them agricultural business, which is kind of one of those professions that once in a while I guess we figure does not exist as much as it used to in Georgia, and it's actually planting seeds with these students to get into that line of business and you know, build in the future sustainable food access for populations. I think one of the biggest things I took away that day on December 4th is what this small part of a park that Councilman Bynum alluded to has already contributed to not only Alpharetta, but those people in need. I mean, I don't remember the exact amount of food that's given weekly to the food bank out of that farm, but it's just a significant feather in the city of Alpharetta's hat, and yours and your team, and the volunteers for all the work that they put in out there. The other thing I say is a real positive is the collaboration between our senior citizens and the youth of our community. We probably don't do enough, in my estimation, as far as bringing those groups together who frankly are learning from each other, but maybe the younger residents of the area are gaining more from seniors and working with them and developing work ethics and things of that nature. And I saw that very brightly that day. The only downside to that day was when Councilman Merkel spoke on behalf of the city, because the roosters kept cackling and, you know, drowning him out. So, only kidding. He did a great job representing the city that day.
Is there a question in there?
No, I just wanted to congratulate you. This is this park, Old Rucker Farm, has a tremendous potential still when you look at the amount of acreage that, and I don't know who was on council when all the decisions were made to acquire that piece of property, but you know, kudos to whoever was all behind that before I got on the council, because it definitely has tremendous potential for the city, and it's already a diamond in the rough as far as I'm concerned. So thanks for all your efforts, Amanda.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for staff on this item? Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Ms. Shapiro, do we have any public comment cards on this item?
We do not, sir.
But if anyone would like to speak on this matter, now's your chance. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Do I have a motion from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that council approve the memorandum of understanding for the city agriculture plan between the city of Alpharetta, the Atlanta Regional Commission, and the Food Well Alliance, and to appropriate $75,000 as part of that MOU and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents.
I have a motion and a second. Motion was by Councilman Hypes to approve and sign the presented MOU for the city agriculture plan between the city of Alpharetta, the Atlanta Regional Commission, and Food Well Alliance, and authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. Is there any discussion? And that was motion by Councilman Hypes, and the second was by Councilman Binder. Note that for the record. And I'll say thank you, Amanda. Everyone except for the two new council members were here for that process, the acquisition of that property. And under Director Rogers' leadership, with a rock star like Amanda leading the program over there, it has become quite a program. And I, quite frankly, was quite disappointed when we lost the first grant 3 years ago. And so I'm glad we were able to pull it off this time. Congratulations to everyone involved. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll just say I probably should have said what I said under the discussion section, so I'm a little rusty, but I'm coming back.
I was trying to give you a nice reminder. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor of the motion to approve, please vote yes. Or just raise your right hand, and it does pass unanimously. Thank you. So that will wrap up the new business portion of tonight's meeting. Do we still have our guest here who wanted to speak in public comment this evening? Public comment portion of tonight's agenda, do we have a?
Yes.
Okay.
Our first public comment speaker this evening is Doug Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. If you'll come forward to the podium.
Douglas Horvath, 1610 Silverleaf Way. Okay, I laid enough clues out earlier today.
Just want to remind you, 3 minutes.
I gave everybody an email to City Council. Perhaps you've already had an opportunity to review it. I will stick to that. I will even abbreviate that for you. Okay, so, but I want to read into one simple thing here, and I do want to share a short story of another fire marshal. And it's so serendipitous that you would talk about sidewalks and accessible routes. I have at 1155 Parkland Drive an unaccessible building that was certified. For you new city councilmen, you might not know this, but we have been issued a certificate of occupancy wherein a state official, Mr. Stephen Jones, was consulted. And now, Mr. Stephen Jones is not only an ADA expert, but he's an architect licensed in the state of Georgia, and he's also an instructor to the fire marshals, and that's his job. Now, there's been correspondence between Ms. Richard, Pryor, and the city with myself and Mr. Jones. Now, following through, we had a discussion of whether lawn was an acceptable surface material for an accessible route. And I will read you Mr. Jones' reply. Mr. Stacy has a copy of it. I think I forwarded it on to y'all. Chip, one moment. Ah, heck, I stuck it under the important items. Wow.
You have 1 more minute.
All right, so lawn is not an acceptable surface material for ambulatory or ADA compliance. I have a building that has a CO without those requirements being met. That transfers the liability from y'all to me as the homeowner in the HOA. I am now fiscally responsible. I do not accept that responsibility because it is incorrectly issued through a faulty certificate of occupancy. This has been round and round. It's cost y'all a lot of money to attorney's fees. Now we have a state official who's actually decided to speak up and address that. Mr. Merkel, you weren't on the chain at that time. Ms. Richard was. I will forward you the copy of it. So that way you're aware of that. Now, for you new members, you had the right heart. You actually talked about all the points that I came up to talk about. I want that for myself, at my neighborhood, at my location. I don't want the liability. Please follow through. Provide the duties and services that we paid for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Shapiro, I believe we have one other registered
Yes,
public
sir.
comment.
Mr. Burdell Jackson, 16555 Chasewood Trail. If you'll come forward to the podium, please, sir.
And you've heard me say this a few times, but if you don't mind, for the public record, please state your name and address.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Burdell Jackson, 1055 Chasewood Trail, Alpharetta, Windward. I just want to come and commend you, gentlemen and ladies, for listening. When I came in earlier, I talked about police policy, and since that time, I see you've applied for a grant to put a training facility in the newly constructed public safety facility. We've spoken with Chief Robinson and Officer Sarantonio twice. He's spoken to our race relations dialogue, and I'm a member of the race relations dialogue as well as a member of the North Fulton chapter of the NAACP. So there's dialogue going on. And I just want to come back and commend you for listening, because we talked about an issue of police policy. We're talking with the chief. Officer Sarantonio has spoken to us twice, last month and this month. So there's dialogue going on. So I'm not here to complain, I'm here to commend. And I just want folks to know that this is not only a bully pulpit for haranguing, but also for complimenting. And I want to thank you again for working things out. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And if there's anyone else that would like to make a public comment, now's your chance. Seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Do we have any reports this evening? Councilman Dorito.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two appointments to the Natural Resource Commission. I'd like to appoint this evening Mr. Clay Jones from 1100 Kilmington Court. And on the Ethics Commission, Mr. Craig Reynolds, 4235 Parkbrook Drive.
Thank you, sir. So it is noted. Any other reports this evening? Well, seeing no other reports, unfortunately, I must ask that we call for a motion to adjourn into executive session.
Motion to adjourn.
Into executive session?
Executive session.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Will, I believe. Councilman Hives made the motion. All those in favor of adjourning into executive session, please raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you being here. Please be safe, and we'll see you next time.